Gaming laptops are on the rise, and ASUS has been a leading producer in the market. If you are looking for an assessment of the performance these laptops provide, this video will be discussing the specs and the efficiency of the ASUS ROG Strix G16 gaming laptop. We will discuss the pros and cons for you to ultimately decide if this laptop is for you or not. Also, details about the products we speak about will be linked down in the description. The 16-inch ROG Strix G16 is ASUS's esports branded Strix laptop for people who prefer something smaller. ROG Strix G16 is powered by an Intel Core i9-13980HX Raptor Lake processor and Nvidia's latest GeForce RTX 4070 graphics card. With a 16-inch 1920 by 1200 165Hz IPS display, the ROG Strix G16 is also the latest laptop to shift from a 16:9 to a 16:10 aspect ratio. This laptop has the hardware to compete with some of the greatest gaming laptops on the market, with 16 gigabytes of DDR5 4800 memory, a 1 terabyte SSD, and the high-quality chassis we've come to expect from ASUS ROG. Firstly, let's discuss the design and make of this laptop. ASUS has fully revamped the ROG Strix G16 chassis for 2023, and I think it looks fantastic. The lid is made of aluminum, and the rest of the chassis is made of plastic. Plastic doesn't have to be synonymous with cheap, as the ROG Strix G16 features a high-quality fit and finish throughout, as well as a satin-like gloss. ASUS keeps the RGB lighting relatively unobtrusive, with a small underglow LED strip running along the front edge of the laptop and wrapping around to the sides, as well as per-key lighting for the keyboard. Each can be customized using AuraSync in the ASUS Armoury Crate software. ASUS included 5 programmable hotkeys labeled M1 through M5 at the top of the keyboard. They handle features like volume, microphone on, off, and a shortcut to the Armoury Crate by default. Despite appearing to be large enough to contain one, the ROG Strix G16 lacks a number pad. The ROG Strix G16 has only 2 USB 3.2 Gen 2 Type A ports on the right side. The left side, on the other hand, has 1 Thunderbolt 4 port, 1 USB 3.2 Gen 2 Type-C port, a GBE port, an HDMI 2.1 port, a 3.5mm audio jack, and a unique barrel-style power port. Large vents run along both sides and the back of the laptop to exhaust heat created by the Core i9-13980HX and GeForce RTX 4070. Moving on to the most important aspect of the ASUS ROG Strix G16 gaming performance. The ASUS ROG Strix G16 is a powerful gaming laptop with an Intel Core i9-13980HX processor with 8 performance cores, 16 efficiency cores, and a 5.6 GHz max turbo boost. The device comes integrated with an Nvidia GeForce RTX 4070 GPU, 16 GB of DDR5 4800 RAM with the help of 2 SODIMMs and a 1 terabyte PCIe 4.0 NVMe SSD. The laptop's resolution is an uncomfortable 1920 by 1200. It's somewhat more pixel dense than a 1920 by 1080 display, but far less than the 2560 by 1440 screens we frequently see in gaming laptops on a budget. As a result, all of the rivals in this group have 2560 by 1440 displays, which are common in gaming laptops with GeForce RTX 3070 or 4070 class GPUs these days. While benchmarking is appealing, we began with OVERWATCH 2, set all detail settings to the highest possible resolution of 1920 x 1200. We kept the frame rate at 165 frames per second, matching the display's refresh rate of 165 Hz. The 165 frames per second statistic was maintained in almost any scenario while gaming online, even when there was a lot of action on the screen. In shadow of the Tomb Raider benchmark, the ROG Strix G16 swiftly surpassed the Gigabyte Aorus 15X at 1080p with 116 frames per second. The ROG Strix won Red Dead Redemption 2 with 72 frames per second over the Aorus 15X at 1080p. The Razer Blade 14 and Omen 16 were not far behind. Again, the ROG Strix G16 showed a minor drop at 1200p as opposed to the more steep decline seen with 1440p laptops. Quality mode upscaling can often boost performance by 30, 50%, sometimes more in games with DLSS support such as Shadow of the Tomb Raider, Red Dead Redemption 2 and Metro Exodus, and the resulting image quality often compares well with native rendering. Where supported, DLSS 3 frame generation can artificially increase the rate of frames supplied to your display by 50, 100%, but it adds latency, and the actual experience of games with DLSS 3 does not enhance nearly as much as the the higher FPS would indicate. It's not an awful alternative, but personal preference plays a role in how frame generation affects the entire experience. Lastly, a brief productivity check would show that the ASUS ROG Strix has a high efficiency for laptops. The ASUS ROG Strix G16 has a lot of firepower for productivity work thanks to its Core i9-13980HX processor. With 24 cores and 32 total threads, this is Intel's flagship Raptor Lake mobile processor. The ROG Strix G16 started off strong on Geekbench 5 with a single core score of 2067 and a multi-core score of 18,227. These results just marginally outperformed the second-placed Gigabyte Aorus 15X. The Razer Blade 15 and HP Omen 16 fell far behind with their less powerful Alder Lake-based processors, particularly in multi-core performance. Overall, the ASUS ROG Strix G16 is a strong gaming laptop that showcases the power of Intel's latest Raptor Lake mobile processor and Nvidia's new GeForce RTX 40 series GPUs. Other highlights of the laptop are its robust build quality, subtle RGB lighting, and a comfy keyboard. Click the video on your screen to check out the ASUS ROG Strix G17, which is the next model up from the G16. You don't want to miss it.